Hexagram number 50. The cauldron. Acceptance of one's fate and of being guided. The hexagram is related to the well, hexagram 48, in which water symbolizes effort. In that hexagram, water nourishes wood, which symbolizes character. This suggests that it is through effort that we develop character. In this hexagram, wood symbolizing developed character nourishes fire. This means through developing the good and the great potential within us, we shine as an example, lighting the way for others. Ultimately, it is sacrifice that lights the wood. Through sacrifice of self-interest, we offer nourishment to God. The Ching is a vessel for offering such sacrifice. Our thoughts at any given time are offerings to the Ching, in the Ching. Again, our inner thoughts at any given time are offerings in the Ching. When what we offer in the way of our thoughts is good, we provide good nourishment to the higher power. But when our thoughts are corrupted, the prince's meal is spoiled. As it is put in the fourth line, it is important, therefore, that our inner thoughts be kept pure and our attitude careful and conscientious, modest. This hexagram calls for sacrificing that which is the highest earthly value, the feeling that we are in command and we have the ability and right to guide ourselves. The fact is, we are not in command. Growing older or being pinned down by an adverse fate makes us aware of this. The idea of such power over self is only an illusion created by our ego. To sacrifice this illusion is also to sacrifice the ego. Simply by relinquishing this pretense, we allow ourselves to be guided, protected by the higher power. Nothing else is required, for the sacrifice of the ego automatically empowers the creative to act beneficially in our lives. The ego, self-image, often manifests itself in disguises so that we are unaware of its presence. We often do not understand what needs to be sacrificed. For example, we may need to sacrifice the ego as an emotionally satisfying point of view. Our personal emotional viewpoint isolates us from the higher power because in clinging to it, we seem to say, it is this view which makes me human, and therefore I cling to it. In clinging to our human faults and prejudices, we maintain a residue of rebelliousness based on a distrust of God's will. By sacrificing inner resistance, we attain true acceptance and humility. We may also need to sacrifice our tendency to feel good when things go well, or to feel badly when times change for the worse. Instead, we should pursue our course straight ahead, independent of events, letting go of things. If we succeed, it is good. If not, we continue forward, working at a self-correction, keeping to our path, and maintaining conscious innocence and inner independence. When we receive this hexagram without lines or a second hexagram, it either means we should relinquish inappropriate thoughts, or it confirms that we have established a connection with the higher power through having made a true sacrifice of our ego. Changing line number 1. A Ching with legs upturned. This line counsels us to cleanse ourselves of inferior elements such as pride, and to be open-minded about people even when their worst inferiors dominate. We tend to make a mental file of other people's transgressions to keep on guard against them. However, these negative ideas become a barrier to their correcting themselves, as well as a source of self-conflict to us. It is against our nature to take close care of evil memories. Bad memories are stagnating stuff. Other stagnating stuff is keeping to be somebody. Other stagnating stuff is seeking to be somebody. We should seek only to do something worthwhile. It is also stagnating stuff to want people to be factual towards us, tolerating our carelessness, bad habits, and mistakes. Changing line number 2. My comrades are envious, while inner worth, stability, and inner independence are elements that cause people to follow us with their inner eye and help them make changes in their lives. They are also qualities that arouse the envy and rebelliousness of their inferior man, until their inferior man is firmly displaced by their emerging superior man. Their inferior man will continue to test, probe, and challenge us. It does so in an attempt to prove to the inferiors that our virtue is weak or fake, and hence not worth following. If it cannot succeed in this effort, the inner conflict and discomfort at going along in the same old way will be dismissed, and no changes for the better will occur. For such reasons, we need to stand firm in our way of life. The envious testing of others leads to danger if we allow ourselves to be drawn into self-defense, or if we allow our pride to be engaged. We should refuse to be drawn off what we see as essential, and should never engage in slanderous exchanges. During such times, we must be extremely careful to maintain our innocence. Envy sometimes manifests itself as unreasoning anger. In such cases, we must deal with it as if we were a bullfighter facing a bull. The bull is allowed to expend its anger harmlessly against the red flag, while we allow it to think it engages us. We stay carefully detached. When we are confronted with unreasoning anger, we need not try to reply reasonably, since a reasonable reply is no better understood than a nonsensical one. It is better in such instances to reply nonsensically. Forgive me, I'll read that sentence again there. It is better in such instances to reply nonsensically. Another form of envy shows itself in servile attachment or infatuation. Oh my goodness. Forgive me. I'm going to start that sentence over again. Another form of envy shows itself in servile attachment or infatuation. To such people, we seem to possess the image they would like to present to others. They study us in search of our formula for success in hopes that they can imitate it and achieve the same results. They distrust our independence, suspecting it is an act that easily can be emulated. They also seek ways to prove that. Unmasked, we must be identical to their inferior man. The correct response is to keep disengaged. In no way should we allow ourselves to be caught up in flattery or to become involved in any game plans they initiate. It is better that they totally misunderstand us and be allowed to go on their way than that we should adopt some image they seem to need or allow ourselves to be used. If our ego does interfere in their affairs, their ego will spring to their defense. This situation resembles challenging a snake in its den. If we are more adroit If we are more adroit, Adroit, if we are more adroit than the snake, we may avoid the hazards. But the snake is poisonous and good at self-defense. It is better not to enter its territory. Changing line number 3. The handle of the Ching is altered. Our usefulness is impeded because we have yet to attain true spirituality. We still cling to doubt and embroil ourselves in inner conflict. We should stop looking at that which causes inner conflict and doubt. We need to truly let go and sacrifice self-interest. Modesty, the handle of the Ching, is the foundation of all other virtues. The sense of injustice that comes in the face of evil must not become a powerful power in itself. As in righteousness and pride, resoluteness must not become rigidity of attitude, devoid of compassion. In spite of all things, we must fall back on the larger truths that sustain a just and moderate view of mankind. Obstinacy and pride make our virtues ineffective. This larger sense of justice, when combined with humility, gives sublime power to the sage. It is necessary to sacrifice both righteousness and self-defense if we are to acquire true spirituality. If we depend on the trustworthiness of the sage, we will need no other defense. Changing line number 4. The legs of the Ching are broken. We receive this line when we have become presumptuously wrapped up in ourselves, unobserving and out of touch with our inner voice. An opportunity to have an influence occurs, but we are so involved either with enjoying ourselves or with feeling put upon that we fail to perceive it and thus blunder through it. In so doing, we set a bad example of our way of life and spoil matters for the sage whom we serve. It is true modesty to remain careful and alert, keeping contact with our inner self so that what we do is mild and pure. We do not forget our path and abandon it through neglect. Changing line number 5. The Ching has yellow handles, golden carrying rings. In spite of the pressures of the moment, we should sacrifice pride and self-defense to remain modest and approachable. Through self-abnegation, we nourish others correctly, serve that which is higher than ourselves, and acquire the help we need to right the difficult situation. Self-abnegation means to keep strictly correct, neither luxuriating in carelessness, nor indulging wrongs in others by failing to retreat the instant evil shows itself. The Ching, changing line number 6. The Ching has rings of jade. We counsel others as the sage counsels us by his example. This means that we maintain our will to persevere quietly past all obstacles. In spite of insults, injuries, and injustices, we hold to our path, remaining mild and pure. The sage is as firm as jade, but always retains his soft luster in the form of gentleness. This is a true example to follow. And this completes hexagram number 50.